The fight we've all been waiting for has arrived. Skip Bayless wrote a column about the matchup. It's on ESPN.com right now, entitled Mayweather Faces the Music. And he kind of says he thinks is going to win. But also, he speaks to Freddie Roach. He's Manny's trainer. Take a look. He says this: he will lose to Pacquiao by knockout on May 2nd. As Pacquiao's trainer Freddie Roach told me by phone, Manny wants this fight more than Floyd. Pacquiao has wanted it more for 5 long years as he waited and waited on May or may not weather, who counterpunched with excuse after excuse. Again, the article's up right now on ESPN.com. It's entitled Mayweather Faces the Music. Skip Bayless, enlighten us.
Coach, I've been saying this on this show now for, it seems like 5 years.
Yeah, right.
5 endless years. I believe that Floyd Mayweather Jr. never wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao.
Ooh.
I believe he got shamed into fighting Manny Pacquiao. And if this show had a little bit to do with that, I'll take just about that much of credit. Because I tried to do that, and I believe my partner Stephen A. Smith in the end finally said, basically, Floyd, you got to do this or you're going to look really, really bad. Floyd had the option. He could have gone on and fought his last 2 fights he was under contract for. No doubt he would have won those 2 fights, finished 49-0. Faded into the sunset, retired 49 and a big 0, with a big glaring asterisk after that 0 that would have said never fought Manny Pacquiao. So I believe he finally got shamed into a fight that he still fears. And I detail in this column and broke down all the reasons why I think Floyd looks at Manny and he says, this is my nemesis. This is everything I don't like. Manny is left-handed. Floyd has always struggled against lefties. Freddie Roach made the point that, hey, maybe Floyd scheduled to fight a couple, took a couple lefty fights just to try to get ready, because he knew at some point he was probably going to be forced to deal with the baddest lefty on the planet at his weight, which is this guy, Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao has high boxing IQ. I think Floyd has boxing genius about him.
Yes.
He's obviously the best defensive fighter ever. But listen, Manny Pacquiao has ring generalship in his head. He can set you up and put you down just the way Floyd can. And finally, even though Floyd made excuse after excuse after excuse, early on, he and his camp, he's using PEDs because he came from whatever it was, junior lightweight all the way up to welterweight. PEDs. And by the way, Pacquiao sued them for defamation, the whole camp, the father, uncles, and all of them. And yet, I believe that Pacquiao has natural left-handed punching power that Floyd was not born with. Freddie Roach also made the point to me that, unfortunately for Floyd, he and all of his uncles and his father, they're all very good boxers, all of them born with small hands and small bodies. But Floyd has had brittle hands. They stay sore. He's got to get them wrapped by a special guy before every fight. Takes away some of his knockout power. Not that he had a whole lot. He's a decent puncher, as Freddie said, but doesn't, as he said, sit down on punches. So all of a sudden, that's another advantage, Pacquiao. And then as Freddie Roach immediately just blurted out to me, Manny wants this fight more than Floyd. Manny has been spoiling, he sat right here in the seat, talking about how he wants to show the world that he can outwill and ultimately outbox the greatest defensive fighter ever. It's all he's wanted for 5 years. And you can look back at the record, and obviously he lost in an outrageous verdict to Timothy Bradley. I still haven't gotten over that one. And then he let his mind wander, and he wandered right into a punch with 1 second left in the 6th round to a Marquez that he'd fought. This is the 4th time. Manny's heart hasn't been in a fight for 5 years. All he's wanted for 5 long years is this guy on May the 2nd, and he finally got it because Floyd was shamed into it. I'm with Freddie. I think it'll be a late round knockout because I think that on just sheer will, that Manny Pacquiao will wear him down and then knock him out.
Well, you make a lot of good points. I do know this. I wish this fight would have took place 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, obviously.
And
by the way, quick point, Freddie Roach made the point to me. The irony was he said, hey, Floyd might have gotten him 5 years ago.
Because now, Pacquiao is, what, 36, Floyd's 38. This could have actually been, in my opinion, like Ali and Frazier.
Right.
This could have been the 3rd fight. Not the 1st fight, but the 3rd fight. Now, we're trying to make them fight. We get it because this has kind of been brewing. We've seen it. we've seen the situations where both these fighters are fantastic boxers, and for some reason couldn't fight. I mean, and I always looked at it, I went, you know, I said, this doesn't make any sense. I said, these guys are kind of holding boxing together. These two guys right here, the names, because the heavyweight is not like it used to be, once was. And these are the guys everybody wants to see fight. It was almost like, what are they waiting for? And you're right now, Pacquiao seems to me, his will, he has something to prove. Mayweather, I mean, he's made a boatload of money. He's a star. He lives a certain life. He's a great fighter. You make the point, he's a great defensive fighter. I do say this, I agree with you here. If this thing goes long, it favors Pacquiao. It really does, because I do think he still has a punch. He's been the guy that publicly seems like he really wants to fight. And it seems like Mayweather has always been the guy that says, well, not so fast. And I don't know why that is. I'm not saying he can't win, but it looks funny. You know, you see this guy never lost a fight. Why wouldn't you fight this guy? Just fight him.
Yeah.
So hopefully it comes to fruition so we can all watch, because I think it's going to be a great fight.
You got a winner?
Until they undefeat him, he's still undefeated.
Yeah,
All right.
okay.
I always go with that. That's just my.
I understand. It's fair.
Okay, back to your point of 5 years ago this should have happened.
Oh, boy.
And I made this point in my column. It's up on ESPN.com right now if you'd like to read it. If Floyd is as great as Floyd says he is and everybody around him says he is, even 5, 6 years ago when they suspected Manny of PED use, why wouldn't you just say, I don't care what he's using. As long as you both weigh whatever it's going to be that you choose to weigh, 145, 148, whatever it is, why wouldn't you just say, I can take this guy. I'm the greatest defensive fighter ever. You kidding me? You can use whatever you want to use, and I will kick your behind. I'll just make you look silly. You can throw all the haymakers you want to throw at me, and you can't hit what you can't catch or see. That's what I thought.
You know, I just think the one thing I do know about Mayweather, he's a great business guy. He understands the business of boxing. Well, I mean,
so maybe
he's done a great job of really just not fighting Pacquiao, but continuing to just the business of boxing. I'm going to promote myself, but it's about at the end. I think he realizes that he's going to have to fight this guy.
Yeah. Okay, so Skip, let me ask you this. I read your column last night.
Thank you.
In it, you're welcome. It's on ESPN.com now. In it, you say...
I sound like Stephen A.
I know, right? Promoting every 5 seconds. Freddie Roach talked about the way in which he felt Floyd could not punch. Did you lead him to that, or he volunteered that information?
I believe I was asking him more about Manny's punching power. And Freddie was making the point that until you get in the ring with Manny Pacquiao, it's hard to grasp what's about to hit you in both speed and quickness and power. And Fred, I didn't use this quote, so I'll give you this. This wound up on the cutting room floor. But Freddie said, hey, I put that chest protector on every day and let him hit me in the chest protector. And he said, do you know how many times I have to take 5 minutes because he just knocked the breath out of me? Because he doesn't look like, because he's 2 inches shorter than Floyd. It's 5'6" to 5. These are little men now that we're talking about. You know, it's not the National Football League we're talking about.
I know.
Okay, and Floyd has about 5 inches of reach, but Manny's hand speed is equal to Floyd's hand speed, and the punching power is maybe a third more than Mayweather's. And then he began to talk about now. Just for perspective, you know, I'm sort of paraphrasing my own quotes here. He said, Floyd is a decent puncher, but he's more of a strategist. Like, he's very clever, and he will walk you into traps like he did Ricky Hatton, caught him with the left hook. He sort of walked him right into the left hook because he's thinking a couple of moves ahead.
Well, he's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
He understands. I'm gonna counter whatever you do.
Hey, okay, Floyd is absolutely, I don't use that word genius. I know it's sort of hard to, but Floyd has boxing genius about him. It's seeing a couple of moves ahead, and all of a sudden he's looking in the mirror at a guy who's it's Floyd. This guy's got an equal IQ, boxing IQ. So if Floyd's hands are a little brittle to where he just can't throw that, especially if this thing's going to go the distance, after a while, I think his hands ache because they're little hands and they've taken a beating because he's been fighting. He's fought 47 people, you know. He's hit a lot of people. So the other guy's hands don't hurt him, but they can hurt Floyd.
So Manny has more punching power than Floyd.
Considerably more. You know, and you can PEDs, you know, obviously that's out the window now because this little man sat right over there 2 years ago on this show, and that's when he divulged to us, hey, I'll make these concessions. I'll take the lower end of a 60-40 split. He sat right there, and that was the first time we heard that.
Right.
And he said, you can needle test me. You know, you can do the blood test all the way up to the day of the fight. I'll take a needle blood test on the day of the fight for any, you can test me for whatever you want to test me for. And that's when I knew this man would go whatever distance it would require to fight this other man.
All right. Herm Edwards, sticking around. When we come back, we're talking about Derrick Rose. Can he go the distance after he returns from surgery? That is the discussion on the other side of the break. Ramona Shelburne will join us. We'll be right back in just a few moments.